Hi, everyone. Happy midnight. I know you don't say happy midnight. My name is Chantay, aka Shantizi. I am Shantizi on Twitter and Instagram, or just simply just Chantay, right? So I have a show called Shantay's Analysis on Instagram. Catch it weeknights, 10:30 ish. But I've been off schedule because of the Democratic convention. So this is like a short after show mini live recap of the Democratic National Convention, which was on this whole entire week and virtually was great. It was not normal what you've seen. You would normally see balloons and confettis and hats and all the little theatrical loud crowds and delegates and everything, but this was virtual. And what about I liked about it this time, it was more intimate conversations and more personal stories from different people of different walks of life. Even there were some Republicans, even though there were some Republicans I didn't want to say, but it was a very good convention. Probably one of the best I've saw in a long time. I did like the 2012 one was always going to be my favorite one. It's going to always be my favorite because for President Obama, and but I it was great. Night one was great. You had I wrote the list down of people that spoke. My governor spoke. Governor Cuomo, he spoke about the COVID crisis and how he, got the city and the state throughout those crises, because if it wasn't for him, we would have been screwed. Also, Jim Clyburn spoke. Bernie Sanders even gave a stark warning to progressives to not sit out this goddamn election. So it was about leadership matters, and he spoke. Well, besides the fact that my movement shit that he did on Monday, it's like everything else was fine. Of course, Michelle Obama basically said, it is what it is. Like, you need to bring your ass out and vote. You cannot sit home. Like, that was Monday. I forgot what Tuesday theme was about. But you had the two former presidents, Jimmy Carter and his wife. God bless that he's still alive. You had Bill Clinton. You had Stacey Abrams, who spoke, who didn't have that much time. In my opinion, could have got more time. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Twitter had dragged her, but I even did a little bit of dragging. But it was like, okay, I understand she did what she did, but she's still complaining about it. Girl, calm down. It's okay. You spoke. You were one of the few progressive voices that spoke, because there were other progressives that spoke too. Just saying. Of course, my senator, he spoke, which is Chuck Schumer. John Kerry spoke. And what I learned about Colin Powell, he's from the Bronx. I didn't know that. I didn't know he was from the South Bronx of that. I knew he was Jamaican, but I didn't know he was from the South Bronx. But he spoke, and Dr. Biden took it home that night, where she said, how you make a family whole, you make a nation whole. Make a whole one. Wednesday, you had the former Secretary of State, former Senator, former First Lady, and former presidential candidate of 2016. You had Oh, wow. Okay, thank you. Hillary Clinton, she spoke. You had Gabby Giffords. God bless her that her speech is getting better, so that's good, because she almost died and she went through some, okay? And of course, the great, my forever president, Barack Hussein Obama spoke. Amazing. I loved it. It was great. He also gave another stark warning. I hope people watched and listened. And we had the greatest speech, one of the greatest speeches from our vice presidential nominee, who was my pick for president, but I'm glad that she's the vice president, Senator Kamala Debbie Harris, who spoke with conviction and basically said, there's no vaccine for racism. And what Trump is doing, he's basically turning our tragedies into political weapons, which is true, because he does that shit all the goddamn time. And her speech was amazing. And then tonight you had, I'm looking at my notes, you had Keisha Lance Bottoms say we must register to vote. She also gave another stark warning. You had Cory Booker, Andrew Yang. You had like the rest of the Democratic uh, candidates who ran for president. Half of them spoke. Beto O'Rourke, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, who moderated the conversation, Andrew Yang, and Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg also spoke. He spoke very well. You had Tammy Duckworth, who spoke about veterans, and also Tammy Baldwin. Only thing what made me mad with Tammy Baldwin, I just wish she would have spoke about, her being the first LGBTQ woman to serve in the Senate, because that right there is a story, and it's important that she tells that story, and especially come from a battleground state, so that would made her speech a little bit better, in my opinion. And also the grand finale. Oh, I forgot about Braden Harrington, who spoke about how Joe Biden talked about his speech impediment, basically his stutter, which was amazing. And my heart feels for him. He's so adorable. He almost looked like Joe Biden if Joe Biden was young, and they have no relation. And of course, hearing from Joe Biden's granddaughters, which they're beautiful young ladies, they mostly look like Joe Biden and Hunter. Well, half of them are Hunter kids, and some are Bo's kids, but they all look like Joe Biden's ass. So, they're beautiful young ladies, and they're hip and they're cool, just like their grandmother. And of course, Joe Biden's kids, his surviving kids, Hunter and Ashley, they spoke, and they had a clip of Bo, which if Bo was still alive, I'm pretty sure Bo would have been running for president or running for vice president or being Kamala Harris's vice president. That would have been cool. What else? Of course, Joe Biden's speech he hit it on the nail. That was one of his best speeches of his whole entire political career, almost serving 50 years as a public servant, who basically pointed his fingers at the foreign adversaries, letting Donald Trump know, we're not going to cozy up to Russia. We're going to get that ass, basically. Going to get that whole entire ass. Okay? So that's right in there, pretty much. But it was great. It was a great night. I just wish there was more Latinx representation, like it was a Julian Castro there, because it would have been great to hear from him. He could have been in that segment with the whole presidential candidates running. That would have been great, because to hear his voice, not just a Latinx representation, but he had good policies. He talked about reproductive justice, and that is something that you don't hear a lot. It was him and Kamala Harris and Kristen Gillibrand, my other senator, that talked about it, that ran for president. A lot of the other candidates didn't really talk about it, but just it was him, Kamala Harris, and my senator, Kristen Gillibrand. So, but other than that, the convention was good. I don't know what the Republicans are going to do. Their quote-unquote diversity is going to be Diamond and Silk, probably Candace Owens, probably Steve Cortez, Vernon Jones, all these nonsense-ass, quote-unquote, the new Black Republican, the new Hispanic Republican, like, child, please. Okay? So, that being said, hey, Jan, how you do? Howdy do? So, yeah, that. Now let's talk about Miss Gabbard. Oh, Miss Gabbard. Miss Gabbard. Ugh. Child. Let me just pull up that shit. Oh yeah, Terrence, what's his face? Terrence K. Williams. They're all non-factor ass people. So let me look at Miss Gabbard's tweet. And she trending too with her tacky ass. So I'm going to read the initial tweet. Reminder, Tulsi was one of 7 candidates that earned delegates during the primary. It has been a tradition that spanned decades for any candidate who earned a delegate to offer a speaking slot at the convention. Tulsi was not invited. Although I doubt she would have accepted. The lack of invitation once again exposes the blunt DNC bias and Hillary Clinton proxies that pursued Tulsi this entire time. Tulsi's asked, "You're correct. I was not invited to participate in any way." Girl. During your campaign, no one knew who you were. Your town hall was boring. Maybe you could have possibly had a position as a Secretary of Defense because I never saw you as a real contender. Boom. Then when you actually try to ruin Joe Biden's moment, when him and Kamala had that little thing, whatever that little thing was, you try to expose her record using right-wing talking points and an opinion article by Laura Beslon, which that shit has been debunked God knows how many times, and said stuff that was inaccurately correct. And you thought you tried to kneecap Harris, but you still didn't rise above 5-6% in national polls, only in one poll in New Hampshire. And even that, you still didn't get no votes in New Hampshire. You wasn't on a debate stage after Kamala Harris basically suspended her campaign. Like, girl, what was your whole campaign about? You had mostly white men supporting you, white Republican men. You didn't have a diverse coalition. Bernie's and Elizabeth coalition was way more diverse than yours. And people raise you as this so-called progressive when you don't even have progressive stands. When you came to the South Carolina Democrat Convention, what was it like in 2019? You were the most boring person. You made Amy Klobuchar look like Julianne Dreyfus. So I'm going to need for you, Miss Gabbard, with your 1 or 2 delegates, whatever the fuck it is, actually try to get a job because you have no job as of right now. Kai's going to win your seat and going to be way more effective than you were. And we still haven't forgot, bitch. And yes, I meant to say that. We still haven't forgot that you vote present and did not vote for impeachment. Yeah, I haven't forgot. And that was 8 months ago, almost 9 months ago. So yeah, Ms. Gabbard, great job. You won. No, you didn't, bitch. Now, let's get to the Warrenistas. A whole nother set of some delusional motherfuckers, right? So, yeah, and who's to say she'll get a job at Fox? Child, please. So, we got some Warrenistas that are problem. And, yeah, they're mad annoying. So, I'm going to look for this queen, honey child. Because this shit was motherfucking delusional. So, here we are. Warren, we could have had Elizabeth Warren. We could have had Elizabeth Warren. That was the tweet. And then we all know Miss Chunk, Professor Chunk. I don't like to say Chunk because I don't like to degrade women that are heavyset. So I don't like doing that. I'll just say Miss Cooper or Professor Cooper. Elizabeth Warren would have been such a great president. Sigh. All because of the little blocks and the daycare classroom. People say the kindergarten classroom looks more like a daycare classroom because I was in kindergarten and my classroom did not look like that. It had no blocks and nothing. We had books and drawing tables. I went to public school in New York, so I know. So, I mean, like, no. She wouldn't have not been good. So, there was a thread by Right Woman. I think I'm going to start following her because she laid down some facts. She always laid down facts, but, I try not to clout chase on Twitter because that's just not my style. So, I'm just going to read her tweets. She had a whole thread. Because another person said, we didn't nominate Elizabeth Warren, ? Okay, that's out of my system. Like, this was all during Kamala Harris's moment yesterday. Like, literally. It was her day. And you guys basically disrespected her. So, Right Woman said, F you. And somebody said, why? Because we should be growing enthusiasm for our ticket, not kneeling people as we work for a common goal. Warren sat out the entire black and women's rights movements. That is true, because she was a whole ass Republican. She was a conservative. She has one expertise. She sang fucking Jesus Loves Me to LGBTQ people. She has zero support in the U.S. Senate. She was rejected overwhelmingly by Democrats. She has a problematic history of putting herself at the center of movements that ignores accepts to better her personal position. She even could have been honest about private school for her children. Damn. Trump would have demolished her, which is true. He started not just on her race, but just on the fact is that the wealth tax and her policies and how she didn't put a number on Medicare for all, because Bernie damn sure put a number on it. And he was going to tax people that make $29,000 a year. And then we are in the middle of a civil rights crisis, and you pick the former white Republican housewife who wasn't interested in civil rights until she became the first woman of color to teach at Harvard, and find out she wasn't a woman of color. She wasn't a woman of color. Kamala Harris delivers. Warren talks about a policy with zero history of delivering. That is true. I like Elizabeth Warren. Don't get me wrong. I like her. I like her as a senator for Massachusetts. But running for president and your history, and you talk about purity, and your history is just as atrocious as the next person because you was in another party who believed in conservative values from staunchy conservatives within the Republican Party, as the Republican Party started growing more around the conservatism began to be widespread. Nah, man. No. And there's no history of her doing anything for the black community. She started like a little bit here and there as the chair of the Consumer Protection Agency. And even that, economics is not enough for black people. There's a whole range of issues that as a black woman, my damn self, there's education, there's housing, there's infrastructure, there's education, there's food insecurity, environment, climate change. There's a lot of issues that black people are very passionate about. We're not a monolith, not just only in voting, but in issues that we care about. The arts. We care about the arts deeply. We care about nonprofit. We care about being in corporate America and making those systemic changes in there. So how did she deliver? And also criminal justice too. We know Kamala Harris delivered on criminal justice. Most of her work was basically intervention and prevention. She intervented and prevented young men for recidivism, if I'm using that word correctly, so they won't have to go back to the system and jail. She created a task force to keep young women from being trafficked among older men. So we think about things like that. That is Kamala's record. What Laura Beslan said, it's bullshit. So I'm gonna need for half of these little Warren supporters, especially these little blue check ones, not the regular folks, but most of the blue check ones, because they're the ones that get on my motherfucking nerves. Need to shh. And get over it, because Kamala Harris is the VP, whether you like it or not. She may have a position somewhere in the cabinet, who knows, where she gets in and fits in. But until then, we have to make sure Biden and Harris wins in November. Period. But until then, you have a good night and happy Friday.